Hey guys, Agent of Doubt here, and this is a ramble about the Jeffrey Epstein suicide. Um, One of my viewers asked in the comments for me to go off on a rant about it. Um, Crap, I got my notifications on. Okay, so um, I don't have the type of rant that would have people really riled up about it, but if you're looking for one of those, my good friend Robert Wallace posted one yesterday. Um, and I think what people are looking for in a good debate back and forth is somebody to take that hard position that Jeffrey Epstein's suicide was rather convenient for those who might have been exposed by him tattling on everybody who might have been a part of a child sex ring, right? Um, and I don't have that for you. I'm still aware that I am not in the loop on a lot of the news about Jeffrey Epstein, and also just using my critical thinking skills and saying, what do I know, what don't I know, you know. Um, and I've only heard tidbits, and basically they were partisan tidbits, like people who are leaning more towards the right now are saying that it was obviously Bill Clinton was visiting some sex island like uh, 30 times, but also I've heard from people on the left that Donald Trump flew on Epstein's airplane a number of times. I don't even know if either are true. You know, who knows? To me, I need to see proof of either happening before I accept either as a fact and start making judgments about certain people having connections with people. But there are some things that I think about this suicide and just the Jeffrey Epstein case in general that make it kind of a cultural landmark in history, right? So yesterday, when the news of it broke, I woke up to my girlfriend Misty telling me that Jeffrey Epstein was found in prison, and the news was saying that he committed suicide. Um, of every person that I ran into yesterday, my girlfriend Misty is the only one who did not express that it was a rather uh, spooky looking, convenient suicide, right? She was the only one. She just said, oh, it's all over the news on Facebook, right? Okay. So the next person I saw was a an agency owner that I have been doing contract work for. While I have a broken leg and I can't do work in certain places, I've picked up hours in other places just to keep busy a little bit. So I've been doing some contract therapy work, right? So I go into this agency, and he's already heard about it, and I've seen him watch Fox News before. So I get a little bit of his bent, but he immediately, because of our age too, he was connecting it to um, rumors about suspicious deaths surrounding the Clintons, right? Because Jeffrey Epstein was had the Clintons mentioned in news stories about him in the past, and there were a lot of suspicious deaths uh, attributed to the Clintons. And see, I don't know. This is just me using my critical thinking skills. I don't know that any other president didn't have the same number of suspicious deaths or deaths around them that people made a list of people that suspiciously died or disappeared. I don't know that for sure, but people who latch on to coincidence um, have made these lists, and the phenomenon has been very strong with the Clintons for decades. And I'll go into that a little bit later in this video. But I went 3 therapy groups in a row, and I'm not allowed to talk about what happened in those groups, but I did work 3 separate sessions yesterday. And the subject of Jeffrey Epstein came up before the sessions as people were just, saying their highs. 3 different times. It was big news. And I can tell you that the sentiment that I was getting from everything that I heard over the entire day, there was not a person that I ran into the entire day other than my girlfriend in the morning that felt like Jeffrey Epstein's suicide was legitimate. And I don't know that who I see in any given day is a good finger on the pulse of America. If it's a good cross section to be drawing from, but just the fact that nobody that I ran into thought that the suicide of Jeffrey Epstein, while he was in custody on suicide watch, nobody felt like it was legitimate. And what does that say? People have some sort of confidence that when somebody is on suicide watch, it's harder to commit suicide. Right? Somebody's going to lose their job if their job was to monitor somebody on suicide watch and that person was able to commit suicide. You expect that there's a camera in the cell that they're being held in. You expect that there's somebody monitoring that footage from the camera. You expect that there's somebody able to run in at a moment's notice if any suicide attempt is happening. That they're being surveilled, at least electronically, if not personally. And some of you know this. Just a few short years ago, that was my job, to personally watch people who had threatened to commit suicide. So I know that sometimes things happen where there is an opportunity to operate without surveillance for a couple minutes in a row. That's not enough time to really tie bed sheets into a knot and then tie them around something in the ceiling and then hang yourself that way. But I've seen instances where a different person who's being watched by the same guard, because guards sometimes have to watch multiple people, will cause a commotion, and maybe a 3-minute span will happen where something else could happen in the other room. I've seen that. But the feelings I was seeing was that nobody really believed that anything like that could happen to such a high-profile case. They were confident that the security guard would have been watching. I got a few people in my day saying that there were questions about Jeffrey Epstein's past with his business connections, as far as how he made his money not being well known. Somebody said that the prosecutor in his initial child sex ring case that person was told to back off because he belonged to intelligence. That was the quote. And people who are falling down that rabbit hole, they don't believe that it was an actual suicide. That they believe that there's maybe some sort of body double, and that was just an agent who was being reclaimed by the CIA or something. You know, I have quite a range of friends with different beliefs, but uh, no one that I talked to yesterday was completely convinced that the suicide was a legitimate fact as reported by the news, right? And I feel like that there are certain milestones that happen in history that just generate conspiracy theories and alternate theories of what happened that stick in the American consciousness in in things such as the JFK assassination, you know, um, and politics seems to go hand in hand with those sort of milestones, you know. What I do want to say about this particular case is that it reminds me of my time in the Army, which started in 1997. And I'd say around 98 and 99 in particular, uh, I saw a photocopied list that was being passed along from soldier to soldier that was a list of suspicious deaths surrounding the Clintons and their dealings. And this list has been growing since. And you can find this list on the internet now with additions, you know, every year as people are keeping track of people who died that had anything to do with the Clintons or the Obamas. Uh, but to me, it's like if you're in politics to that degree, like the president is, you know, is every death that happens all over the planet of somebody who you might have shaken hands with at one time, is every one of them attributable to you? You know, no. But these lists are very, very inclusive of everybody who's ever known them. And in a country where suicide ranks among the top 10 ways that people die, you know, suspicious suicides connected to the president are, I guess, you know, a very easy list to compile. Because statistically, you know, if they know 100,000 people over the course of their presidency have shaken hands with, you know, that many people, you can say, well, you know, you would expect just by the statistics that a certain percentage of those are going to die by suicide. You know, and are the lists that are being made uh, taking that into account? I don't think so. You know, they usually have a political agenda behind them. But back in the day, before email had taken root in our culture, before memes were a thing, I do know that in the little folder that every soldier kept in their office, where they would photocopy jokes from each other, there was a list of all of the suspicious deaths surrounding the Clintons that was circulated among soldiers in the U.S. Army prior to the millennium happening and prior to the advent of, you know, the technologies we have that are really easy to share, you know, memes on social media. We were using Xerox machines and photocopying our jokes. and our subversive content that we were sharing, and that was one of the things. So this idea that Jeffrey Epstein's suicide is too convenient, and it's just another one of those deaths that happened around the Clintons. It's rooted in something that is decades old as a conspiracy theory. And I just wanted to point it out for people who are the younger millennials who don't really get why all of the older people around them are very suspicious of this one event. And people who are normally given to more skepticism and aren't given to conspiracy theories still recognize that this one looks a bit shady. It's because their whole lives, over the last 3-4 decades, they've been primed to think this specific way about people surrounding the Clintons dying. That's what I got. If you're one of those people who really wants to see someone go balls deep into this sort of thought, I'll leave a link in the description box to my friend Robert Wallace, his video. He's more willing to jump in the pool than I am, so to speak. But he's still a good friend. We still talk daily. So I'll leave a link to his video. If that's what you're looking for, is some action, then go ahead and comment away on his video. He brings the goods. The lulls are there.